This is the Zeiss 25mm f2 for Sony E-mount. It's a 9-bladed aperture lens using the Distagon optical concept. It has 10 glass elements and 8 groups with floating elements. 9-bladed aperture ranging from f2 to f22. Its close minimum focus distance is 7.9 inches or 20 centimeters. It has the Zeiss T-Star coating, and that helps with reducing reflections and flares. It's dust and weather sealed, and the most interesting feature is the OLED display marking showing the distance and depth of field. Here's how you control the display. So in order to turn off the display, you turn it to the left until it shows the off, then turn to the right. To get it back on, you again turn to the left until it shows, and keep going until you hit the next section, which is MF. This is for use with the DMF focus mode. Turn it again to the left and keep going until you get it back to on, and that's when you're going to use it with your autofocus and regular manual focus. And to change from metric to imperial, you just turn it all the way to the right this time until it switches over to feet and inches. And to get it back, you just rotate it again to the right until it switches back to meters. Alright, so let's do some test samples with the Batis 25. I asked my friend Kiara if she wanted to do some modeling for me. I've got her to do stuff in the past, but she said she was going to be at the horse barn. So here we are at the ranch, y'all. I'm going to do some tests and do some center sharpness, corner sharpness at f2, f4, f8. You might as well go up to f22, and we'll look at the sharpness and see where this lens has the sweet spot. I already know for a fact that it's pretty sharp even at f2. I've had this lens for a couple months now, but I feel like it's time to review it because it's one of the best lenses that I've ever used for sharpness. And yeah, so let's do some shots of a random barn here and take a look at the sharpness. Okay, starting at f2, we've got some heavy vignetting and barrel distortion. f4, the vignetting starts to leave. f6.3, we got some nice sharpness here. f10 is also sharp. At f22, it starts to get a little soft. All right, let's look at the center. f2, f4 you can see is quite a bit sharper. f6.3 seems to be the sweet spot, it's really sharp. And at f22, it seems almost softer than f2. Okay, looking at the extreme corner, f2, f4, the vignetting's gone. 6.3, nice and sharp. And at f22, it's starting to look soft again. Okay, so let's look at this when it's corrected in camera raw. And you can see the vignetting and distortion's gone. Okay, doing the close minimum focus test, we've got 7.9 inches or 20 centimeters of close focus distance. And look how crazy the background just blows away here. In this next test, I want to show you how well this Zeiss separates isolation from the background. It just pops. It has kind of a 3D effect. And look how sharp it is here in the center. Alright everybody, this is Kiara and her horse, Boris. He's actually a pretty good model. I took some shots earlier at the barn, and he's an Italian stallion. He's German? All right, he's German. He's seriously a model. He's staying in one spot.
I know.
Now, I wouldn't necessarily use this lens for this type of shot, but it's a good test for this lens. It shows how close the focusing distance can be and how sharp it is. He's gonna sniff the lens. So I had the camera in Super 35 so that we had more of like a 35-ish focal range instead of a 25. And that's kind of the cool thing you can do with the A7R II. It's like having two lenses in one. But I'm gonna put it back to 25mm and show you these shots here. Oh yeah, it's a lot wider now. All right, if you wanna go for a ride, that's cool. I love doing a Sunstar effect, closing the aperture right down to f/22 and taking a picture of the sun. It always gives this awesome cool flare, and let's take a look at it with the 9-bladed aperture on this lens. And one thing I'm noticing, this lens is actually controlling the flare amazing. I don't even have the lens hood on right now, and I can't get this thing to give me any kind of lens flares right now. It could be because the sun's not crazy strong, but that's one thing I've noticed while using this lens compared to, say, like a Canon 24 to f1.4. That lens had a ton of flare, but sometimes that's cool to have flaring in your shots, and sometimes you want that. I know for sure my old Canon 50mm 1.4 looked amazing with the flare. And then with the Sigma 50mm f1.4 for Canon, it completely eliminated the flare, and I didn't like that. So I wanted to do a chromatic aberration test, and you can see here at f2.8, we got some green and purple fringing on the tree branches here. This is the worst case scenario, that's why I did it. But we'll get in nice and close here and you can see the green and purple. All right, now stop down to f5.6. It's pretty much gone. There's a tiny little bit of green in the out of focus areas, but that purple fringing is gone off the sharp tree branches. So compare these two side by side and you can really tell the difference. All right, so as you can tell from the samples, this lens is really sharp, and I'm really impressed with it. But it does have a few downfalls. And the first one I'm going to talk about is the lens cap. It's not really the best. It kind of could fall off if it kind of bumped. Like it doesn't take much to pop it off, and it feels pretty cheap. And that's not something you want on a lens that costs this much. And that leads me to the next thing. The build quality is plastic. The mount's metal, but the rest of the body's plastic. And if you were to drop this, the whole thing would probably crack. And I don't want to test that out. So that's one thing. It does have weather sealing, so that's nice to have. And it actually has the rubber gasket around the mount, which is something that not all Sony weather sealed lenses have. And it's something nice to see that's on here. All my Canon L glass that was weather sealed had that. And you know, it's just another reassurance that there's water not going to be getting into your sensor between the body and the lens. One other thing I don't like is the rubber ring around the body. It's really prone to picking up lint and dust and stuff like that. It feels nice and smooth, that's not the issue, but the actual material that it's made of collects dust, and it's kind of gross after a while. You have to clean it off with a damp cloth and clean it up that way. Check, 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 1, 2, mic check. Anyway, thanks for watching the review of this lens. It's a great lens. It's kind of expensive. There's other alternatives out there like the Sony 28mm f2. It's not weather sealed, but it's an awesome lens. My friend has it and he loves it. And also, if you were using this on a crop body, you can also go with the Sony Zeiss 24mm f1.8. And that lens is also awesome, but it's getting up there in price as well. It's kind of in between the 28mm f2 and this one, the 25mm f2. But it's great to see that we're starting to get a lot of options for the Sony mount, the Sony E mount, not the Sony mount, because Sony AA mount has been out for a while. Thanks for watching this video. Thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down twice if you disliked it, because you know, double thumbs down gets rid of the thumbs down. See you guys later in the next video. Thanks for watching.